Pursuant to the governor's temporary suspension of open meetings, this will be audio video meeting. And we do have a quorum. I'm on my phone, so I'm just making sure everybody's here. Everybody's here, right?
Yes, sir.
We do have a quorum, so we're going to move right along. Dr. Cavazos, do we have any public comments for agenda topics?
There are none that have signed up.
Okay. Next item, do we have any public audience for non-agenda topics?
No, sir, we do not.
All right. Next, we'll go into item number 5, the consideration for rejection of bids for Harlingen CISD Special Education Transition Academy for the 2019-20 school year. Mr. Julio Cavazos.
Thank you, Mr. Jaimez, Dr. Cavazos, and board members. Agenda item number 5 is the rejection of the bid that we received for the Special Education Transition Academy. Let me just share this with you real quick. Oscar went over this at the facility committee meeting. Just a recap of our bids here, right there. We did get 9 bids. Can y'all see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, we did get 9 bids. All of them were, about $1 million or more. Scoggins with $878,000 was the lowest bid. This was above our estimated budget of $650,000. So we're recommending to reject all bids, and we're going to review this and possibly rebid it with the different specifications. So again, we're recommending to reject all bids as presented. Any questions?
Do you have a motion?
Yeah, I move that we reject the bids on the Special Education Transition Academy.
Second.
Second.
Okay, that was a motion by Mr. Greg Powers. Second, was that you, Javier?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay. Any further discussion on this item? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the motion passes. Moving on to item number 6 is the consideration for approval to award construction services contract for the UTRGV Harlingen CISD Early College High School for 2020-2021. Bid number CNST 0520-2. Mr. Oscar Tapia?
Mr. President, I want to abstain from discussions and voting on this matter, please.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, President Jaimes. I'm going to share the. Can you see that?
Yes, sir.
The agenda item for this project is the Early College High School UTRGV project. We did discuss it at the Facilities Committee meeting, and I shared the bid tabulation, which was 6 bids that we received, and I showed all the prices with the alternates. The ranking committee got together, and this is what we came up with the scoring. This included UTRGV staff, Mr. Camacho that represented UTRGV, our staff, and the project architect, which is David Monreal. D. Wilson scored 122 points. So they provided the best value for the district. So we're recommending that we award the project to D. Wilson Construction at the base bid of $14,739,000 for this project. I'll be glad to answer any questions you all may have.
Oscar, there's a line with Small Glass, the second highest bidder, lowest bidder, I mean.
Okay, can we get a motion and then we can go into discussion?
I move that we approve D. Wilson as recommended by staff.
We got a motion by Mr. Greg Powers.
I second the motion.
Second by Ms. Fleury. All right, go ahead, Greg.
Well, I assume Small Glass was number 2, but there's a line to it on my screen. Is that 114 or what? What was
Yes, that would be correct.
Okay, I can't read it, but that's fine. Okay, let's.
Yes, these contractors are listed in order of the pricing, but the ranking would be Wilson number 1 and Spoglass number 2.
Just to be repetitive a little bit, for those who weren't at the facilities meeting, you might want to make a few comments because I'm kind of impressed with D. Wilson and their experience and your past experience with them. You might want to share that with those who weren't at the other meeting.
Yes, well, the last project they did for us was the School of Health Professions, and I think we were all very happy with how that project turned out. Prior to that, I've worked with them many projects on other projects at another district I worked with, and we also had Rick Anderson from the university on our facilities committee meeting Zoom in, and they've done some projects for them as well, and they're very pleased with their work. So they've been around a long time, and they're very reputable, and we have no doubt they can do a good job on this project.
Oscar, real quick, you mentioned that was on the base bid, but were you going to discuss the alternates?
Yes, the alternate bids on this were for alternate number 1 is for an additional 2-story, 1 classroom on each floor, so it's 2 additional classrooms that we want to add, and for the price of $218, we think it's advantageous for the district to take that extra alternate for those 2 classrooms for our population we're going to have there. And alternate number 2 is a water softener system that UTRGV puts in all their projects, and they're recommending we install one here as well. So we're going to accept that alternate. And the last one was lighting control systems, part of the energy management controls. That's also required by code, and we're recommending this specific product, which is also what UTRGV likes to use. So we recommend the base bid and the 3 alternates for a total of $15,036,000.
I have a question, and I'm sure maybe all of Mr. President.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
You know, we're going through this, and I think the choice is perfect. I think the price is a fair amount. But let me put a little wrench on this. As we're moving forward, and with the COVID, we don't know where it's going to go and how it's going to be setting up. You know, we're going to be having to look at maybe less and less brick and mortar and more online. And I know we're moving forward. I know we need to move forward. But are we looking at, as a future going on, we're going to have to reevaluate brick and mortar instruction and more online instruction? Have we kind of thought about that as well? Not all at once.
Okay, Mr. Dillon, I'll jump in on that real quick. So actually, the long-term plan is that our dual enrollment programs at both comprehensive high schools and throughout that are academic in base, we would slowly begin to offer them out of UTRGV as a program. And so brick and mortar may be needed because we will still have kids attending courses. And also keep in mind that the whole idea is that in the evenings, this will become a university. And so the demand out from the public, not only from Harlingen, but throughout surrounding communities, may be that those courses are going to be taught face-to-face by UTRGV. I know that they're redesigning their bus routes and stops there to drop off people and take courses. But to your point, I think there's going to be a hybrid model. I think that we'll need some brick and mortar, but I'm not certain that we're overbuilding. If not, we're just building enough to get us through phase 1. I think the university, with their neuroscience building happening at the far end of the property, is just going to fill up that space. That's their long-term plan with different programming. So we may be relocating some programs to that facility that's closely aligned to programs that they'll be offering in the baccalaureate level.
You know, and one of the reasons I said it, and since we're live and people are listening, very, very good point, Dr. Cavazos. I want the people in the community to know that as we're moving forward, we're very sensitive and we know and we're looking at the future and not just continue to build as we've always done in the past, but really looking at we're building and we're going to continue to build because we need to build, but we're going to be looking at brick and mortar initiatives and incentives as we move forward because there may be some changes in how we offer instruction. We've heard it earlier today as well. And so as long as the community is aware that we're in tune with that, we're aware of that, and as we're moving forward and we're building, but we know the future needs of tomorrow as well. Thank you.
Mr. President, I think that it would probably be appropriate for Mr. Powers to amend his motion to include the alternates, since it was base bid only? If you're okay with that, and
Yes.
amend the motion.
I will, I'll amend the motion to include the alternates at this time.
Okay, and Jerry, you'll second?
I concur 100%, yes, thank you.
Okay, and does anybody have any further discussion? If not, I just wanted to say that we had a great discussion during the committee meeting of everything that's happening, all the new norms, and and doing everything. This is something that we've been looking forward to for a couple of years, and I just want to thank Oscar, Julio, Dr. Camasas, everybody involved, because this is an exciting time for HCISD, and this is one of those initial steps in the building process. So thank you everybody for the work that has led us to this, and I'm excited. I know everybody else is excited on this meeting. So now if we can take the vote, all those in favor to approve this, to pass this motion?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so the motion passes. Thank you again, Mr. Oscar Tapia. I believe you're up again. Item number 7, consideration for approval to award construction services contract for the Treasure Hills Elementary School campus improvements Phase 2 bid. Go ahead, Mr. Tapia.
Thank you, President Jaimes. We also discussed this at the Facilities Committee meeting to award the Phase 2 project. We received bids. We had 6 bids. There was only a base bid. There were no alternates. They ranged all around the $7 million range. The ranking committee got together and ranked them, along with the project architect and our team. And we ranked the Davila Construction as providing the best value to the district at 123 points. So we recommend that the board approve Davila Construction for this project at $6,798,000 for the Treasure Hills Phase 2 project. I'll open it up for any questions you may have.
Mr. President, I move for approval as presented.
Second.
All right, Dr. Perez with a motion, Dr. Reininger with a second. Any further discussion? If not, let's go ahead and vote for it. On it, everybody opposed? I mean, in favor? Sorry.
Eladio, you muted. Eladio, you muted.
Again, who was anybody not at the facilities meeting that's on the screen now?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Can anybody hear us?
Belinda, can you hear us, Belinda?
Yes, I can hear Dr. Camasas and Greg and Eladio.
Okay, good.
Hold on, guys. Okay.
Okay, so we had,
Can y'all hear us?
Yes.
yes, we can hear you.
Just again, to be repetitive, I'd like Oscar just to tell anyone who wasn't at the meeting, because Davila is the first time they've done business with our district, but they're a very well-known company, a very long-standing company out of San Antonio. Oscar, you want to just comment briefly on them, because I know you're pleased.
Yes, Mr. Powers. We reviewed their request for qualifications proposal they submitted, and they are corporate out of San Antonio. It's a pretty big-sized firm. They've been around for a couple of decades or longer. They have a presence now in the Valley. They've been here about 3-4 years, and all the references were very good. That substantiated that the firm was professional. They're reputable. The biggest project they've done recently was some work on the Riverwalk for over $240 million, so they can handle big projects. And they're also working on the new San Benito Aquatic Center, Performing Arts Center next door to our district. So they're here in the area, and a project up in McAllen too with another district. So definitely a long-standing firm here now in the Valley that is getting some work and has a good reputation with the work they've done so far. So we're excited to work with them.
Do they have Valley ties, or it's a San Antonio company that's moving down here?
No, they have an office here in the Valley, and the people that we met with, I've worked with before, a person who worked for an architectural firm, Tommy Canul, was the lead person. I've worked with him and has a lot of experience. So they're from the mid Valley area. So we don't have any problems with their local folks and the support from the San Antonio office.
Perfect. Well, we had a motion by Dr. Perez and a second by Dr. Reininger. Any further discussion? All right, we'll vote in. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Oscar, for that presentation. Those
Thank you,
two
Mr.
presentations. Next, we'll move on to number 8 and a budget workshop presentation by Mr. Julio Cavazos. Sir, the floor is yours.
You're muted, Julio.
I have to repeat myself now. Thank you, Mr. Jaimes, Dr. Cavazos, board members. Agenda item number 8 is our second budget workshop for this year. Let me just bring this up here. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is our second budget workshop. This is a recap of the estimated revenues and appropriations, and you've seen some of this stuff from last budget workshop that we had in May. Some of the numbers change, so I would say they're about 95%, complete, but there's still be some changes here. So let's change this pointer options here. Highlighted. There we go. So our total estimated local revenue, we're actually looking at about $43.7 million, and we'll go over our estimated property values here in a little bit. But just for your information, our taxable values is about $4.1 million. So for every penny that we tax, we generate about $410,000. That's pretty much where we're at there. That's total estimated revenues 43.7. State revenues, we're looking at doing a projection of ADA of 16,900. So a total estimated state revenue is about $140.6 million. Federal revenues, and we do have some Medicaid revenues that we do receive, and some other minor federal revenues that are incorporated into our general fund. That's about 4.8. So the total estimated revenue is about $189.1 million. I'm just going to go to the next page, and we'll go over the appropriations here in a little bit.
Julio,
Yes.
real quick before you start the budget workshop, you said 80 to 90% is the same from the month of May. So what we're seeing in red is that the 10% or 20% that is different for the month of June?
No, it's not. That's I just highlighted the health insurance in red. So I mentioned it's about 95% done. So there were some changes from the prior workshop, and I'll go over those here in a little bit.
Oh, okay, but they're not the ones in red.
No, they're not.
Okay.
So we go to the estimated revenues again. This is a comparison of where we were in 2018-19, the budget for that year, 2019-20, or projection to be 2019 and 20, our actual projections for this year. So, for example, local revenues, we budgeted $42.3 million. This year, we're expected to be about 42.5, pretty much on budget for the projected revenues. We're budgeting $43.7 million in local revenues, and that's because there's an increase in our tax rate, our taxable values, and I'll go over the taxable values here in a little bit. State revenues, last year we budgeted 138.8. We're projecting to be at about 141.3. Actual budget for next year is we're projecting about 140.6, being a little bit conservative there with the numbers. So that it's actually a little bit less than what we're actually going to be earning this year. Total federal revenues, we budgeted 5.3 last year. We're going to be about 4.5. This upcoming year, we're projecting to have a little bit of an increase in federal revenues. So we're projecting about a $4.8 million in total federal revenues. Again, the total budget $189.1 million. We go back to this. This is the estimated budget again. That's where we get that number. I do want to go over the tax information that is very important. The taxable values in 19 and 20, total taxable values was about $3.8 billion. This year, we're projecting, based on the latest number from the appraisal district, to be about $4.1 million, which is an increase of about 6.86%. Last year, or this, 1920, our tax rate was $1.21.64. That's the actual tax rate. We're projecting that our tax rate is going to be about $1.19.47. That's a decrease of a little bit over 2 pennies, and it's two different tax rate. The maintenance and operations, we are going to be compressed again this year. Last year we're at $1.06.84. This year we're going to be at about $1.05.47. So the state is making us compress our tax rate. That was part of House Bill 3. The other tax rate is the interest in sinking. Last year we were 14.8 cents. We did do the refunding of the bonds, which we saved a little bit over $12 million in refunding those bonds. And what that translates is to a reduction in that tax rate in the INS for about 0.8 cents. So again, the total tax reduction about a little bit over 2 pennies that we're going to be proposing as we move forward. The next page here is the tax rate. I showed this at the last meeting that we had, our actual tax rate over the past 10 years. Again, last year we reduced it because of the compression. The INS stayed the same. This upcoming year, we're going to reduce it a little bit more, about 2 pennies more. That's going to be proposed to the board. We're going to propose it. This page here is the actual information that we did get from the appraisal district just today. Where's the date? Yeah, just June the 2nd. The net taxable values that they have as of today is $4.3 billion. Doesn't take into consideration the appraisal review board, items that are under appraisal review of about another $729 million that are properties that are still being reviewed by the appraisal district, and more likely those are going to come down. That's why the number that we're projecting as far as taxable value is going to be 4.1 as opposed to the 4.3. Again, this is a comparison to last year, the 3.8 versus what is currently right now. So it shows an actual increase of about 11%. Again, it needs to be adjusted because of the appraisal review board hasn't determined those properties that need to be adjusted. So we're being conservative and projecting about a 6% increase after they do all the review from the appraisal district. So that's the property tax information. Any questions on the property tax information? Okay. So we go back to the front page on the revenues and appropriation recap. Again, our total revenue $189,100,000. The budget that we had last year, $186.9 million, and we started with last year minus any one-time cost. Staffing adjustments, we did have some staffing adjustment based on some, current staffing to students. Let me go over that real quick. So I worked with Deb Scoggins, and she provided this information, and she meets with the principals and the assistant superintendents for elementary and secondary, and we're able to reduce, some staffing based on our current enrollment to a total about 10 FTEs, a total about $550,000 in reduction, which is a savings as we move forward. And those are local dollars. These are some other items that we're looking at too. Education diagnosticians, we're looking at bringing in two on board, but those are going to be federally funded out of Fund 224. And some security officers, which we had this in our recap last budget workshop. We're looking at bringing in some security officers to the tune of about $425,000 in new costs, but we're going to fund those out of federal, Title I and Title IV. So those aren't part of our local budget, but we're able to do that. Again, so we come back to the front page here. Those are our staffing adjustments. That's where I get the $550,000 reduction. This lease on new technology, the board did approve the lease for the OSAPO products last board meeting. We're incorporating that into our budget. The electricity savings contract, we did enter into a new contract this year. We're going to stand to realize a savings of about $200,000 per year. Compensation panel adjustments, we are reviewing some items there. One of them, which is education diagnosticians, that we might have to make an adjustment to bring them up to market. So I put a placeholder there, about $35,000. Again, I took out the security guards that we had last year that are going to be funded federal. I mean, that we had last month, that were going to be funded federal. GPS tracking system for school buses, an increase of $75,000 that we're going to have in recurring costs. So total appropriations, $186.7 million minus. I mean, we take the total revenues and we subtract the appropriations, gives us an estimated surplus of about $2.3 million. Health, health insurance increase. We did get our health insurance recap from our consultants, and they're projecting about a 1% increase, which is pretty good. So that's about $125,000 in estimated cost. So taking that into consideration leaves us a surplus of about $2.2 million. So I do want to, yes.
Let me ask you on that health insurance. That's fantastic. What's our loss ratio? Is it pretty low? Is that?
Yeah, this upcoming year, and let me stop sharing this. I have another item here.
I mean, what justified that low of an increase?
Yeah, it's actually the claims. I don't think this has our loss ratio. You all can see that, right?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, this doesn't have our loss ratio, but it's probably hovering around 85%, and that's what caused this this 0.9% calculated rate adjustment. So they're thinking of a little bit less than 1%. And it's based on the claims, the claims history that we had, this year. So we had, a pretty good year so far.
If we had an 85% loss ratio, I mean we haven't hit that in years, have we?
Yeah, we haven't. It's actually pretty good. And of course, you have to take the administrative costs and all those other costs, that they incorporate to that. But this year, it actually looked pretty good. And we'll discuss this at an upcoming employee benefit committee meeting. But again, we're looking at about a little bit less than a 1% increase.
And Julio, it'd be good if you could give us an overall estimate of our savings by going to this plan, assuming that we have a 15 to 20% increase on the traditional versus what we're doing now.
Sure. I mean, versus a fully insured plan. Yeah, and we need to make that analysis, but yeah, we can work on that.
Thank you.
So let me go back to our. Okay, so we were at this $2.2 million surplus. So we need to go over our salary scale, and this is what.
Julio,
Yes.
Before the salary scale, I had one question on that line item. If you go back where I had the savings I'm sorry, I forgot the page number.
That's right. This one.
I think I know the answer, but just for clarification on the staffing guidelines adjustment, that's a savings of $550,000. That's not. We're not letting anyone go. It's just through attrition. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. That's, because we reduced some class sizes and some enrollment decline in some of the campuses, we're able to do with less, and it's through attrition, right? It's through attrition.
Thank you.
Okay. So as we go to the salary items, this is our current teacher hiring scale for 2019 and 20. Our senior teacher is at 50,500. Our 25-year teacher is at 62,300. So one of the things that we're looking at and proposing as we move forward is looking at what do we do for staff, for teachers. This page number 15 here is the Region 1 teacher salary comparison for 1920 for Region 1. So it's all a Region 1, 1920. And this is our district. We are at 50,500 for senior teacher. 5-year 52, 10-year 54.9, and so on, right? That's our district. This is, what the market is based on the Region 1 analysis. And I have a breakdown by district as well, but this is just a one-pager where it shows everything combined. So for the superior teacher, we're actually at 104% of market. We're about $2,300 more than the market. So we're looking good there on teacher salary for superior. For the 5-year teacher, we're 104% of market, about $2,300 more. 10-year, 105%, 15-year, 104%, 20-year, 102% of market, about $200 more. And the highest salary on our scale is 63.2. The market, is about 61.2. So we're about 103% above market. So it's about a $2,000, above the market for the highest scale. And this is just a little graph of, where we are. Sorry about that. Where we are and where the other districts, the market is. So as far as teacher salaries, we feel comfortable that the current salaries that we have is a little bit above the market for our region, all of our schools, the small ones and the big ones as well. So this is what we're proposing now. And again, this is a budget workshop. It's subject to change, and with conversations with the rest of the staff and the board members, the proposed hiring schedule for this upcoming year. Again, this is where our 2019-20. This is more or less the number of teachers that we have in that pay, in that scale. So what we're proposing is for a superior teacher is to basically stay with that 50,500. Don't change that. And again, this is a hiring scale. This is what we use to bring people on board. Not to change that. So basically, that the superior stays the same as last year. A 1-year teacher would get an increase of adjustment of $200 to bring them to 50,700. And the reason that we do that is that we don't want it to be the same as a superior teacher. So we want to have a little bit of separation between 0 and 1. So we would propose a $200 increase for that particular line item. Years of service for teachers. So for everybody else, pretty much stays the same. So you're 1 year. Last year, you're $51,000. That's your scale that we brought you in. This upcoming year, you're going to be 2 years, where you're going to be still at $51,000. Same thing for a 2-year, 51.3. Next year, they're going to be at 3. They're still going to stay at 51.3. So we're in other words, we're freezing our hiring scale pretty much the way that we had it this year, with a minor adjustment to the 1-year teacher, just to have that separation between 0 and 1. And the reason that we're doing it, even though we have a surplus there of $2.2 million, is that every indication that we're hearing is that next biennium we're going to be faced with some reductions, and we're trying to get ahead of the game and trying to be fiscally responsible. So the thoughts with that surplus that we have a 2.2 is to give some type of increase to staff. But to make it a one-time adjustment that is non-recurring. So we sort of build this into our budget that is going to be there next year in case that we get cut. And all indications are that we are going to have some cuts. But we have at least this item that we can count on for next year's budget. So what we're proposing, teachers and everybody that's in a teacher's scale, a one-time increase of $1,000, and that translates to about $1.2 million in local dollars out of our local budget. For hourly staff, giving them a 2% one-time increase, and that's a $522,000 adjustment to our budget. Administrators and other professionals, about a 1.75% increase, and that's about a $348,000 impact to the budget. Total impact to our budget, local budget, about a $2.1 million. Again, this is a non-recurring item because it's going to be a one-time thing. We haven't done this in Harlingen. We haven't done this at all. And I think I do. Let me see if I can bring this up real quick.
While you're doing that, Julio, so this one-time kind of a cost of living adjustment, non-recurring, we've looked at different models. What it means is this: is that if at the next biennium they tell us that we have to reduce our budget by say 4 million, well, we have 2 million that we're using for this year that we are not committed to beyond this coming year. And so instead of a $4 million hit, we take a $2 million hit. And so it's really a placeholder, but we think that we need to do some adjustment and give some money back to the staff because we're going to be in a very different year again next year. And so I asked Julio to look at the last 10 years and what we've done for teachers. And so he's going to kind of show that right now.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, good. So this is, actually the last, 14, 15 years of increases that we have provided to teachers. Again, in 2020, 2019, we did, give a pretty good increase of between $3,000 and $4,000. 18, 19 of $1,100, $1,200 year before, 13, 14. So, we've have given consistent increases over the years. In 2011, 12, we did not give an increase. And that was when we had the big budget reduction. So there was no increase. But prior to that, we had given some increases pretty much every year. And again, this is what we've done over the past 12, 13 years. And again, in 2021, we're looking at this one-time salary increase. Let me go back to the.
Dr. Cavazos, can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I guess the question is just, I guess so. Am I correct in assuming that the rationale here is we just don't want to commit ourselves to any recurring expenditure just yet, and that if the money's there and the board is comfortable with this, we do this one-time situation, and then going forward, depending on what happens with enrollment, what happens with the budget, this next legislative session, that kind of stuff, then future decisions can be made at that time regarding any adjustments that would sort of basically adjust things in a more permanent fashion, at least for a recurring expenditure. So this one time is just because we don't want to increase things permanently or in a recurring fashion. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, that's correct. So we do have the funding in our budget to give an increase this year. The issue is the following biennium that. Again, all indications are that there's going to be some significant cuts, and if we have this ability to do a one-time adjustment this year, we know that we have at least $2 million built into our budget next year that we might be able to help offset some of those reductions.
Mr. President?
Go ahead, Mr. Dillon.
Jumping on Dr. Perez's comment. The first, I think that's a very responsible recommendation by administration. I really do. We don't know what the future holds, and we have to be good stewards of not only the dollars, but stewards of representing the community. So I see exactly that. Dr. Perez, I agree with you. I think just with a caveat, I think we have to be careful in how we say that, because what I don't want is a year from now or 2 years from now, the staff going to administration saying, "Okay, now you need to give us our money back because remember 2 years ago." So we need to be very careful that they're not feeling that they're entitled or there's an entitlement, and then the administration is going to get bombarded a year, 2 years from now, saying, "Okay, now you all said that if things got better, you're gonna double it," because we just have to be very careful in how we move forward, and we don't know what tomorrow holds, but we're just working for the budget for today, and hopefully and setting our budget that we're on solid ground for tomorrow. But I'd hate for staff or anybody else to be going to the administration and calling them, telling them, when are we going to get our money? And even though that's not the message that we're going to be sending out, some of them may get it like that. So we have to be very careful in how we approach that.
Well, and I think what's important to note is that the board approved a one-time adjustment of $300 for their teachers here last month, and they're going to be receiving it here in June. And that was communicated to the teachers that it's a one-time $300 adjustment as we pivoted to an online platform. This is very similar. The difference here is that we're proposing that this adjustment, this one-time allotment, be issued out in December and in May, so that because if a person doesn't finish the school year, then it would be prorated for when they left. But also we want it to be TRS eligible because some people are close to that point where they're contemplating retirement. So it has to be earned income. And so it has to be earned throughout the year so that it would be paid out like $500 in December and then $500 at the end with, where it would be the $1,000 adjustment. We're studying that because we want it to be TRS eligible for the staff.
Julio, real quick, you guys can hear me, right?
Yes, sir.
You mentioned that this is the first time HCISD does this?
Yeah, this one-time adjustment, yes.
Have any other school districts done it that you know of, or?
Yeah, absolutely. There's some other districts that have done it. I know for a fact Los Fresnos has done it a couple of times. They've given a one-time adjustment. I don't know how many times over the years, but other districts have done it. Given a one-time. And again, the reason is that we don't know what the future holds, and all indications are that we're going to be reduced some funds. So in having a recurring increase or recurring salary, next year we're going to have to reduce that budget. So we don't want to get to the point to reduce FTEs. So thinking if we do a one-time adjustment that we're able to incorporate into our existing budget, the current budget, at least we have that built in for next school year, 21-22. That we have $2.1 million that we can work with.
Eladio, and also community colleges and universities do that as well. So it's not an uncommon practice.
And what I was going to say, Javier, to your point too, was that like you said, you got to be careful that they don't come back and expect. But I think in a time like this, when everybody might take a hit or everybody expects to take a hit, I feel like we're still doing what we can to give back to the teachers, especially after everything that they've had to do this past few months.
Absolutely.
And then, Mr. President, I think they'll remember, to Javier's point, I think they'll remember that, and it's not like they're going to forget that we gave them this, if we do this, that we gave them money when times were tough. But by the same token, I think, I know Dr. Cavazos and his staff, the way they'll basically roll it out to the district, I don't think anyone's going to expect that we double things going forward. I mean, that's not going to be a realistic consideration on anybody, or expectation on anybody's part, because everybody's going to have times are going to be tough for everybody across the state and across the region. And so whatever we can do going forward is going to be depending on the budget at that time. And I think everybody knows that we always do the most we can I think we have a reputation in this district of always doing the most we can for our staff, for our teachers, and everything else. And so that's not going to end. It's just going to be a situation, whatever the budget's going to allow for at that time. And so I think we're going to be okay. I trust staff to roll this out in a responsible way, and I think it's going to be received well. And I don't think there'll be expectations down the road that we double up in any way, shape, or form.
I agree. And Julio, another quick question before you continue. The 1,000 and the percentages. How did you guys come to those numbers? You might have already addressed this, but is it going off those last 10-year numbers?
Yeah, well, we looked at what we could afford in our budget this year, and we had about $2.2 million as a surplus right now. So we just worked the numbers. $1,000 is 1.75% for teachers. I mean over their average. So that's what $1,000 is, and so we say okay, 1.75 for the other administrators and professionals, and usually hourly we give them about 0.25% more. So, we did that. And again, the main thing is to work it, to make sure that we can incorporate that into our budget.
Julio, may I make a comment, Mr. President?
Yeah, go ahead, Ms. Furry.
Thank you. Yes, I agree with the gentleman that this is a highly responsible approach and just a very reasonable explanation, and so I appreciate that, and I am sure that you're going to put it out exactly right. But I've just got to say that my heart is really heavy for thinking in terms of teacher compensation in general. I was trying to think as you were speaking that the number of careers which require a bachelor's degree as a minimum and encourage master's degrees and PhDs, and we have multiple people in our district right now working on their PhDs, and the return financially for what they are giving is minimal at best. And so I just think we owe such a tremendous depth of gratitude to the teachers in our society who are doing this for, as a commitment to our society, for a love of children, for a love of education. And it is astonishing what they are giving in comparison with what they are getting. And it's just not possible to overstate the degree of gratitude that I'm sure all of us feel. And in this particular season that we are going through right now, of inordinately greater demands that we are having to make on these teachers, it is astonishing that we have the number and the caliber of people who are willing to do this. It really is remarkable, and at some point, the United States of America is going to have to address this seriously, because we have not done so yet, in my opinion, the compensation issue for teachers. I also, though, would like to say that I am always so proud of what we are trying to do in terms of the insurance benefits, the health insurance benefits, and really a critical thing, very important, and it's likely to become more so as this new normal continues. So kudos to our teachers. Thank you for doing a very responsible plan and presentation of this. We're doing the very best we possibly can, but always with the knowledge that they deserve more than we can ever give.
Thank you, Jerry.
So I do have a couple more slides, that I wanted to go over with the board real quick. Our TRE budget. This is what we're projecting for our TRE budget for 2021 and 2022. Just wanted to kind of put that out there to see what we can do with our $10 million that we get every year. So again, early college, high school, we're going to budget about $7 million. We had already incorporated some of those costs into this year's TRE budget, 1920. So we're anticipating to use about $7 million next year. The maintenance tax note, that's $10 million that we received about 2 years ago. We have to, we're paying that back. The bus lease that we have, we spend $300,000 out of TRE. Technology infrastructure, that we have committed to enhance our infrastructure at all campuses. We've been budgeting $600,000 per year. This is the 6th year that we're going to be doing that. And we also put a line item there for COVID-19 related items. We do want to get our campuses, up and going and be safe and secure for our students. So there's going to be some purchases that we're going to be making, and we're going to be making them now here within the next month or so. We did incorporate almost about $1 million for COVID-19 related expenditures, such as some hand sanitizer, stations, some additional sinks, water fountains, for the kids that can, they don't have to use their hands, they can use a bottle. Working on some of that and some other related COVID-19 anticipated expenditures. Again, $10 million for this year, and next year, 2021. Again, that we have those maintenance tech notes and the bus note and the tech infrastructure. Treasure Hills, we're going to budget about $2.5 million out of TRE. We're using. Remember, the Treasure Hills project came in about $6.5 million. Well, we're going to use $4 million in 2021 out of fund balance, and in 21-22 we're going to take the rest out of TRE. So with that, in 21-22, there's going to be about $5.4 million of additional TRE projects that haven't been assigned yet. Just wanted to put that 2-year budget out there as we move forward. We do have some monies there in TRE that we have used wisely over the past 5 years, and continue to to budget for those items. I went over this last. This is our estimated fund balance. We went over this last time. Didn't change from last year. Last month. Again, a total general fund balance about $43.9 million. In summary, again, I wanted to go over a summary with the board. Average daily attendance, we're budgeting 16.9. We're down 225 students, so we want to be conservative and don't budget for more than that. Possible tax reduction of about $0.01 to 2 pennies, more likely 2 pennies. Increase in property values 5 to 6%. Increase in technology devices, increase in the budget $500,000. We're able to fund elementary security guards, again using federal dollars. We are reviewing the diagnostician salaries and comparing them to market. Again, we're building this budget based on responsiveness to the current situation. We understand that a lot of talk about future biennium and possible cuts, so we need to be responsible with that. Again, the one-time adjustment to salary that is non-recurring, and any vacancies that is going to be filled is going to be reviewed by the superintendent prior to filling it. That is pretty much it on the budget workshop. Any questions that I can answer?
Mr. President, this is Belinda. Could I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, Dr. Arnega.
Thank you. Regarding the projected ADA, could you just speak a little bit more to how much movement we typically see in that? And, certainly this is just an estimate at this time.
Yeah, we typically see, either a 1% increase or 1% decrease. It depends on a year-to-year basis. I actually have a graph. I don't know if I have it. This year our attendance percentage was a little bit lower than we typically had. We had a bad 4 to 6 weeks, and it seems to be isolated. In previous years, we've had better attendance rate. So we want to be conservative and not budget for anything more than what we had this year. So typically it's a 1% increase. Again, it depends on any additional people relocating to our community. Opening of charter schools. We feel confident with a 16,900 projected ADA.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Go ahead, Javier.
Kind of echoing on Dr. Reiner's question. Have you all reached out, or has TEA given us any direction? Because in the upcoming year, I don't know how nervous parents are going to be in sending their kids to school. How is that going to be affecting ADA? And if they're not physically on our campus, is that going to be affecting ADA? Are they redefining ADA requirements for this upcoming year? Because I can tell you that, unfortunately, a lot of what I've heard, a lot of parents are still reluctant, and they're not going to be sending their kids to school. And with that said, that may be hurting our ADA.
It will be redefining ADA, Mr. De Leon, to where if parents keep them at home, they're currently looking at, they will still fund us. It may not fund us at 100% for that child, but there will be a funding mechanism. We're watching that very carefully. The commissioner has indicated that he tends to push that. He's going to push that out decision by about July. We're pushing him to do it earlier so we can plan accordingly. So these are very conservative numbers for that reason. Because to your point, there's a lot of unknowns.
And actually, if you look at the silver lining to this, there's a lot of individuals that we lose a lot of individuals for not coming to class,
great point, because if they redo how they do ADA, we're going to be able to get funding for them, even if they're not in the classroom.
Thank you.
Thank you, Evan. Anybody else have questions for Mr. Glasses? All right, I'll just say, Julio, thanks again for a very detailed presentation and everything that you provide us with, the information. I really, as I mentioned earlier, the fact that these are different times and hard times, not just for our school district, but everybody, that we can provide that for our teachers. I think they'll see that that we definitely have their back, and I'm glad for everything you guys did to make that happen. So. Thank you, Julio, and thank your staff for us.
Sure. One other point, if I may, Chairman, is so we
go ahead.
Schedule our public hearing on June 25th. So typically we have public hearing, and the board will adopt the budget after that. I just want to make you aware that we're scheduling that for June the 25th.
That was going to be my question, Mr. President. So that's going to be our next and final meeting for the budget. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
That's correct, and I think Sonia called out to everyone to see availability. It looks like everybody will be available, so we're actually planning the groundbreaking for the new UTRGV CHS campus that morning, and then we'll go into a public hearing in that afternoon. So trying to use up that day. Guy Bailey has confirmed that they are going to be actually taking the lead in the groundbreaking. And the city also has put it down as a tentative date for the groundbreaking.
Great.
And you said
Alrighty.
morning. You said in the morning that's going to happen.
Yeah, 9 o'clock.
The groundbreaking.
The 25th, yes.
All right. Well, thank you. Next, we're going to adjourn to close our executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code sections 551.071. 551.072, 551.074, and 551.082, the Open Meetings Act for the following purpose: discuss employment of teachers and other professional staff. We're now adjourned to closed session.
Okay, we're ready, Mr. Adams.
All right, we are reconvened into open session for action on matters discussed in executive session. Do I have a motion to consider employment of teachers and other professional staff?
Yes, I'll motion that we employ the teachers and other professional staff as recommended by administration.
I have a motion by Dr. Reininger,
Second motion.
second by Ms. Fleury. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes, and we are adjourned.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
You'll be safe.
Thank you. See you guys next week.
Thank you.